Good afternoon, Kipsters. Today is Wednesday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. Today we will be continuing on with our strings family instruments. Yesterday we learned about the cello and the double bass. And the day before that we learned about the violin and the viola, rounding out the violin family and all of the violin family relatives like the double bass, the cello, the viola. But we call them the violin family. Today we are going to leave the violin family. That the double bass was the last instrument in that family, and we're going to go into a couple. Not these particular instruments don't have a family, but they are very recognizable instruments that do have an immense responsibility to be taught. So you might recognize this first instrument. I noticed that it was a very recognizable instrument with students as I've taught through the years. And so we are going to move on to that. If you are following along on the Nearpod, which you should be, I know that you might have to click all the way through the lessons that we did the day before to get to today's lessons. And I'm sorry for that. I will continue to I will try to find a way to make sure that you don't have to click as much. But if you don't have to click, awesome. You might even just have the Nearpod still pulled up on your screen and you can just continue on from where you were. So yeah, we are at March 17th. If you are not on this Nearpod specifically, you can pause the YouTube video and go forward into March 17th. And then when you're ready, you can unpause the YouTube video and move on from there. Okay. Always make sure to go next when I say next on the Nearpod. And if I forget, you can always refer to the YouTube video to see which slide I am currently on. Okay. So here we go. We're going on to the next slide. And our first instrument we're going to be learning about today is the harp. Okay, now this is the one instrument that I recognize that a lot of students already have seen or have heard about. And then this is a very unique and rare instrument, but very much a staple in the orchestra. The harp is a stringed musical instrument with a number of individual strings running at an angle to its soundboard. Strings are plucked with the fingers. Harps have been known since antiquity in Asia, Africa, and Europe, dating back at least as early as 3500 BCE. So these instruments are some of the very first instruments to have been seen, to have been made, to have been played. So this instrument has a very long history, a very rich history, and to this day, although it's not played as often or used as often, it is still very much recognizable and still being used often enough. Here's a couple of videos of the harp being played, and I like this video a lot because it's a close-up. She's kind of giving an example of what the harp is, and you can really see how her fingers move when she plays this song.
And I play the harp, and I've been in the orchestra for 25 years. I started playing the harp when I was 7 years old, so I've been playing it a very long time. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the harp. It's a very complicated instrument, and people don't get to see it very often. So I usually play the harp with my fingers, plucking the strings like this. And I have 47 strings on the harp. It's actually 6.5 octaves, which is only about 5 or 6 notes less than the piano. So it's almost the same range as the piano, from high all the way to low. So the strings of the harp are like the white keys of the piano and sound like this. In order to get the black keys, or the sharps or flats, we use pedals. We have 7 pedals on the harp, 1 for every note of the scale. And each pedal changes that note on the entire harp at the same time. When the pedal is all the way up, the levers don't touch the string, and it has a flat sound. Then if I push the pedal down into its next position, it shortens the string, making natural. And if I push the pedal all the way down, the other lever shortens the string, making it sharp. So I have 3 different sounds for every string on the whole harp. One of the most traditional sounds used on the harp is called a glissando, and it's produced by sliding your finger over the strings. What's different about a glissando on the harp and any other instrument, including the piano, is that we can set our pedals in a special pattern to make a chord instead of what you would hear on the piano would be just a scale, which is maybe pretty, but the chord is even more special. Sometimes we play glissandos with our fingernails. And I'd like to play you a piece that uses a lot of these special sounds. This is called Song in the Night. It's written by Carlos Salcedo, who was a harpist. So he understood the instrument very well and knew how to use special sounds on the harp. I hope you've learned a lot about the harp today, and I hope you'll have a chance to hear it again, both as a solo instrument and maybe in the orchestra too. I hope to see you at Orchestra Hall in the future.
I thought that was very great. And even I learned a little bit about the harp. I didn't know that when you press that every note on the harp had its own pedal, which is very cool. I didn't know that at all. And that means it's very hard to play the harp, especially if you have to use your feet a lot too, which I didn't even think about. Awesome. Okay, well, we're going to move on to our next instrument we're learning about today. But before that, we're going to watch a video of someone playing the harp. And this one is really good with seeing the fingers and what they have to do. But you also might recognize this song too. Good. So I'm not going to play the whole video, but it's nice to see how quickly her fingers had to move. You also could see that she had to do two different things with both hands. So one hand was playing one way and the other hand was playing something completely different, which is also very challenging as well. So I wanted to show you that, a song you recognize on the harp as well. But if you want to continue watching that video, feel free to watch it on the Nearpod. But we are going to move on to the next instrument, which is the banjo. The banjo is a 4, 5, or occasionally 6-stringed instrument with a thin membrane stretched over a frame or cavity as a resonator, called the head. The membrane, which is that circular part of the body you see down there, is typically made of plastic, although animal skin is still occasionally but rarely used. The banjo is frequently associated with country, folk, Irish, traditional, and bluegrass music. So if you ever listen to bluegrass music, or you've been to a bluegrass festival, or maybe like a fair or something like that, you might have seen a banjo player playing, and they're usually accompanied with other guitars as well. Usually it's not the main instrument, but it's a specific sound. If you've ever gone, or if you ever go to Nashville, you'll see the banjo a lot. So very popular instrument, very recognizable sound, and you may recognize it as we watch these videos that we have.
The twang of the banjo resonates in American country music and bluegrass. But this down-home sound actually has its roots in Africa, with slaves who came to America and wanted something that sounded like the instruments from home. They devised the banjo, and the rest is music history.
I've been so just a quick blurb inside the video. I've been recognizing that when I do the how it's made videos, when it shows the videos of the instruments being made, that it automatically cuts out the part of the video. So I'm going to pause it now and then just encourage you to watch the how it's made banjo video on the Nearpod itself. It's not as important as the other parts of the other videos I show, but I just want to make sure that we know. Please go ahead and watch this on your own if you want to watch that video. But I know it's going to make me trim that part of the video out, so I'm just going to move on to the next video, which is a demonstration of a few different types of banjo players, and just gives you an idea of an old sound banjo, of an old style banjo playing, and then also a modern style of banjo playing. So as you can hear, it's a pretty recognizable sound. Awesome. And so, yeah, we could see a few different types of players. It's all very similar sound, and it made me even wonder, like, what type of skill does that instrument take to play? Because they all played it so smoothly and so easy. So, I was thinking, maybe is this an easy instrument to learn, or is this, something that takes an incredible amount of skill and that these specific people have? So I don't know, but it seemed to me that it might be even easier than the guitar, and maybe that's why people play it. But you never know. If you want to play the banjo, hope you have interest after that, after watching that. Okay, we have a quiz. These last two questions, guys. Which of the instruments that we just learned about has the most strings? Which instrument of the two, the harp or the banjo, has the most strings? Give you 10 seconds to answer. If you picked harp, that is correct. And I was very interested by the fact that also the harp is almost as capable as the piano in terms of how many notes it can play. I thought that was a very cool fact. And then, which instrument is usually heard in bluegrass music? Is it the harp or the banjo? Which instrument is usually heard in bluegrass music? Although you may have never heard bluegrass music before, you've probably heard that sound, that sounding banjo, that type of sound. So you may have been hearing like a Geico commercial or something, and they'll use a bluegrass type of sound, and that might be where you heard it. But banjo is the correct answer for this. Go ahead and click submit, and you should get 100% correct. And then that brings us to our closing point. Tomorrow, we're going to continue learning about some more instruments that are outside of the violin family, and I'm looking forward to showing you tomorrow's video. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed today's video and learned a thing or two about two new instruments, the harp and the banjo. As always, Mr. Isaac has three things for you. You are kind, you are smart, you are important. I look forward to the day we can make music again. Until then, have an awesome evening.